Bem-vindos a mais um Perfeito Desconhecido. Estamos a voltar agora de uma pausa carnavalesca. Eu também estive doente no último programa, portanto também já passam 3 semanas que faço o programa. Hoje vamos ter um programa muito especial por uma série de circunstâncias. Hoje, eu hoje estou bem, mas o Ricardo infelizmente está doente. Portanto, um abraço para ti, Ricardo, das melhoras. Vamos ter 2 convidados surpresa. Só dizer pequenas notas. De facto, depois de 3 semanas houve muitos shows que nós fomos ver e um deles foi o evento da CTW no passado sábado. E por causa do evento da CTW vamos falar um bocado sobre a CTW e sobre o evento com o David Curl e com um convidado especial também. De referir que a maioria da conversa vai ser em inglês. Irei fazer algumas pausas para tradução, mas pronto, juntem-se a nós. Hoje estamos a começar o programa mais cedo e pronto, juntem-se a nós. E agora passando para os nossos convidados. First of all, thank you so much, both of you. So I have to introduce Sir David Curl, sorry, my apologies, and the champion of CTW at the spoiler, Mad Dog Max.
Yes.
Thank you so much. First of all, this is a challenge. This is a surprise either for me because I was scheduled to have a shorter program, but it's so good to have you guys. And to thank you, first of all. I don't know if you want to introduce yourselves for the viewers at home.
Okay. I'm David Curl. I'm the General Manager for CTW. I come from England.
And you, Mad Dog?
Okay. Obviously, Mad Dog Max, professional wrestler from England. I've wrestled all over the world. I've wrestled in America, wrestled in Japan, all over Europe, and now I find myself in Portugal speaking to you. So there you go.
That's very fun. First of all, I have to note the obvious. You have a Wolverhampton shirt.
Yes.
So I imagine that you are a big fan.
Huge. Yeah, I must say this. I was connected to Portugal via Red Eagle, via CTW, many years before Nuno and any Portuguese player stepped foot in Wolverhampton. But we're good friends, and our relationship worked like from a business point of view. But then Nuno Espirito Santo comes to my club and he saved us. We were in the second division, not doing very, very well, and now we're in the best of Europe. So
yeah, and you are in the Europa League, right?
Yeah.
So
and that's the Portuguese contingent. I think we've got 8 Portuguese players and a Portuguese manager. Yeah. Patricio.
Moutinho,
Neves, Jota, on and on and on. We've got many Portuguese players, so there you go.
And sorry, we're starting with football, but it's just very interesting.
No, please do.
But I always was to be like a fan, and suddenly your club gets taken over by a contingent of Portuguese people, and of course the owner.
For me, makes no difference because I've been coming to Portugal many years for wrestling. I've been coming to Lisbon and different places in Portugal to wrestle. So I'm already very familiar with the Portuguese culture and the Portuguese way of life and Superboc and Bifana and so on and so on, And then when Nuno joined Wolverhampton, I was very sceptical because obviously he'd only managed at Porto for 1 year and, I didn't know. And then he took us out of the second division into the Premier League and then into Europe. And like you say, Jota, Neves, Moutinho, Patricio, it goes on and on and on. So great Portuguese players. It makes me very proud. I have a Wolverhampton shirt. I also have a Portuguese shirt too. Portugal national shirt.
Oh, you have a Portugal national shirt.
And on the back it says Wolverhampton.
How fitting. To ask you, you are from Wolverhampton?
Yes.
Or you're really from Wolverhampton?
Yeah.
I just wanted to confirm. By the way, David, do you follow football or?
No, it's not. It's not a Wolverhampton shirt. I have to say.
Yeah.
I'm also a big Trekkie too.
You're a Trekkie too.
Yeah,
absolutely. Love it. I've loved it since the first series, way back in the late 1960s.
You watched the original?
Oh yes, absolutely. And my other favourite, of course, is Doctor Who, which I think you've seen a couple of series here, but. It started in 1964 and I watched the first series from behind the sofa. It was so frightening at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So, yeah.
It must be something to watch as a kid.
Absolutely. And still be watching it now. Yeah.
I would just do a small break. Só para dizer aos nossos telespectadores, a quem nos ouve e vê, sorry, que estava a perguntar ao Mad Dog como é que é ser adepto do Wolverhampton e de repente entrar um contingente português, e ele disse que adora, que tem sido uma experiência bastante boa, que desde ele já estava familiar com a cultura portuguesa e que desde que chegou o contingente português passaram da segunda divisão para a Europa League e portanto tem sido bastante engraçado e bastante bom como um supporter. Sorry guys, I was just doing a small catch-up of the broad lines of what we are talking about. But David, you were talking about Star Trek and Doctor Who.
Absolutely.
And how did you saw the globalization of Doctor Who? Because it was such a British thing.
It really was, yes.
A couple of years ago it was.
And it was so disappointing to see it being sold by the BBC to America and for them to do this long, almost a film, which was so unsuccessful, they then sold it back to the BBC. And a good thing they did, because I think the later series are a different style from the early series. That doesn't take away from the original series, but it's a completely different style and it's more up to date now. It's wonderful to watch the old ones and you think, why was I frightened about that?
Yeah.
But the new ones have a new pace. I'm not quite sure about the new Lady Doctor, but I think the last few episodes she's actually grown into the part, so I think it's going to be successful. What do you think?
That's very interesting. And you, Mad Dog, do you also find interesting this kind of sci-fi shows?
I'm a huge Star Trek fan. From the original series, I used to watch it with my granddad. We watch William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
George
I've even got
Takei.
a tiny Star Trek emblem tattooed on my arm, you know,
okay.
a huge Star Trek fan. Right through to the Coverdale, I watch Discovery and the latest Picard series. So sci-fi, me and David have something in common there. We talk
Absolutely.
about sci-fi all the time.
Yes.
But when it comes to Star Trek, that's my passion, you know.
It's life, Matt, but
Away
what as
from
we
the rest.
not as we know it.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
That's very interesting. And how did this passion for things like sci-fi and things that involve a lot of fantasy translate to your love of pro wrestling? Is there any correlation at all?
To me, yeah, that's a great question. When you're wrestling, it's escapism. Okay, so I might have trouble at home, I might have some bills that I've got to pay, I might have some stresses. And you know, when I'm in the wrestling ring and the crowd are booing me or they're cheering me or something, for those 20 minutes I forget every problem that I've got and everything's okay. And that's the same when you watch sci-fi, it's escapism. You can watch Star Trek or Star Wars or Doctor Who or this or that, the other, Librarians or whatever you want to watch. And for 20 minutes, for 60 minutes, all of your problems go away, you know?
Yeah.
And the same goes for when I'm wrestling, same thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
I think that's absolutely right. It's a case of escapism into a fantasy world that isn't real, but you can relate to it.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I did amateur theater a couple of years back.
Oh, right.
And that was the same exact
Yeah.
feeling. Like when you are performing, you forget everything that
Yeah.
is going bad in your life. You just go with it and you enjoy it. And it's an escapism, as you were referring.
100%. Yeah.
So that's very interesting. And pro wrestling it's a wonderful world because it's limitless, right?
Yeah.
You can pretty much do
Oh, yeah.
everything you want.
The storyline
Yes.
is limitless.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Doctor Who. You know, you change the characters, you've got a whole new row of characters, and away you go again with a whole pile of new storylines.
Yeah, that's very interesting. The purpose of today's show was a little bit, and unfortunately Ricardo is sick, but I will give my perspective. It was to give also the perspective of attending an event.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge pro wrestling fan for 15 to 20 years now.
Awesome.
And I went to few live shows in my life, as weird as it sounds, because in Portugal, it's till a couple of years back, it was complicated. And the overall product that we had, it was not, unless it was WWE,
Yes.
we didn't have much variety. So for me, I think the CTW show was on Saturday was like the fourth or fifth time that I watched pro wrestling live.
Okay.
And for me, it was the first CTW show that I ever watched. And yes, it was. I followed the product on the internet, of
Yeah.
course, on YouTube, and I watched matches, and I followed it in social media. But it was the first time, and for me, it was amazing. Because, and Ricardo, and I can speak a little bit on his behalf, for him, it was amazing too, because he's not a fan. Well, he used to watch wrestling as a kid.
So
but-
he's a casual fan.
Yeah.
yeah, like
Relapsed.
a lapsed. Yeah,
Relapsed, yeah.
relapsed. fan.
Yeah.
So his perspective was completely different than mine.
But that's good.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I was super into it because I follow wrestling. I watch wrestling. I don't know how many hours per week, but I watch in social media. I'm always following what's happening in Japan, in the States. So I'm pretty much up to date. So that's one of my hobbies. But for him, and for him to enter that world and to see how he reacted, for me was a very interesting experience.
Yeah, to watch him react in a way that he didn't think he would react. You know?
Yeah.
Mirroring that, the biggest thing that I noticed, because I promote shows in England and I run shows, and we get a lot of like parents bringing the children, because obviously John Cena is very oriented to the children,
Yeah.
and the parents will walk in and they'll pay the money and they go, oh, we only bring the kids, we just come for the kids.
Yeah.
And then on the way out they're like, that was an amazing show, we love this wrestling, next time we don't bring the kids, we come alone. So that mirrors everything you just said. That's what I see on the doors every week in England. Yeah.
Another small break just to
Yes.
keep our viewers
No
updated. Estávamos a falar um pouco sobre, primeiro, o amor que eles têm por ficção científica, sobre Doctor Who e Star Trek, de como o pro wrestling também tem, como é que o amor por sci-fi depois também se traduz um pouco ao amor pelo wrestling. Estávamos a falar sobre a evolução do Doctor Who e mesmo a evolução do Star Trek, e depois estamos a começar a entrar um pouco na gênese do programa 2, que é a experiência de ir a um espetáculo de wrestling. Da perspectiva de uma pessoa que vê muito wrestling, mas que não costuma ir, e de uma perspectiva de alguém que já não vê há muitos anos. A perspectiva do Ricardo. E estava a começar a introduzir a conversa, de dizer que foi uma experiência bastante engraçada, tanto ver a minha reação como a reação do Ricardo. Well, continuing our conversation, this was a brief, for me it's interesting because, and the job that CTW does for me, and I had the chance to say this in previous interviews, is super, super interesting, especially in Portugal.
Yeah.
Portugal, for cultural arts, wherever they are, is a very tough country.
Yes.
Okay.
Because to be an artist, either you are in theater, you are a musician, an actor, is very, very tough because it's a small country.
Yeah.
It's very objective. It's a small country. It's a small market, and the kind of audience that we have there's not a space for like niches. You know,
Yes.
there's no space for that. Only like major things. So
Yeah.
the work that CTW does for me is very interesting because of that. Because Portugal, for alternative things, when I say alternative, is things that are not football, not telenovelas, not those things. Portugal is tough.
Yeah, I understand that, and I can see that every time we work a show. But one thing I think that people in Portugal forget is that in the 70s and 80s, wrestling was very, very big here. You can speak about Horacio Gala and Tarzan Tabosh, and these are very famous wrestlers, and they would sell out huge arenas in the 70s and the 80s, and that kind of died off. You know, like wrestling's fine, but luta livre, as it's called here. You know, I understand Portuguese wrestling history maybe more than the Portuguese people because I am a wrestling historian. You know,
you are.
Horacio Gala. I might not be pronouncing that right, but he was one hell of a wrestler. And Tarzan Tabosh, and I could go on and on and on. These guys sold arenas out in the 70s and 80s, but as a culture, you almost forgot that in the 90s and the early 2000s. But it is hard. It's working it back up. I came maybe to CTW's third or fourth show, or maybe in the second show, and I saw them with 40 fans in the audience, then 50, then 60, then all of a sudden sellouts. You know, I saw this, but like, I think it's a shame if Portuguese people forget that there's a huge wrestling history here, you know, and there's stars here that were very, very talented. You must remember that, you know.
But do you think that back to the 1980s, that with the introduction of WWE as it did in England, it killed off World of Sport. That was the big one.
Yeah.
Did it actually started to kill it off here as well?
Of course, I understand, but people must remember those stars that were here.
Of course,
Gala
yes.
and Tabosh and all these amazing wrestlers. Don't forget that, you know.
That the point that you raised for me is very interesting, because on the last show when we had Super Kid here, Carlos Rocha, I think is his name.
Rocha, yes. There's a street named after him.
Yeah.
There's a whole road.
And the thing of it is, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I had never heard till that day of his name.
See, I'm from England and I already know who he is. I've seen countless matches of his, and he's so talented, so talented.
Yeah, and I was going to Cage Match that day to understand a little bit of the history and where he had been. It's like, how didn't I heard about it?
Yeah.
And we are not very good, I think, in Portugal, the Portuguese people, of treating our history, and we treat because in terms of wrestling, as you were saying, it's very complicated because people get forgotten. Like Tarzan the Border, it's a mainstream name,
but he's amazing.
People heard about him.
Yes,
you know?
but don't know about him.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And past Tarzan the Border, the mainstream audience, they don't know anybody.
Such a shame.
Yeah, like these days, of course, you start to hear about Killer Kelly, you start to hear about Shanna, you know, those two names, but no more than that. And going back to the past, in the mainstream audience, there's no recollection. So for me, it's surreal that I'm speaking with wrestling people that know more of Portuguese wrestling than me, that I'm a Portuguese fan.
Yeah, and I'm from Wolverhampton. And but like I say, I consider myself not just a wrestler, but a wrestling historian. I could tell you about German wrestling history, Austrian wrestling history, French wrestling history. To me, without the wrestlers that came before me, I'd be nothing.
Yeah.
And without Gala or Tabosh or these people, I wouldn't be here now wrestling in Portugal. So I need to be grateful of those people, and I need to be knowledgeable of those people, you know?
That's very interesting. And I think it's very important to know where we came from.
Yes.
So I'm here today sitting on the radio, but for me to be today here sitting on the radio, somebody before me did this and paved the way and
Exactly.
allowed things like web radios to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for
Absolutely.
me, like you said, I'm also a big fan of the history context, and
Yes.
I think is very important. And I think is very important the question that you raised, the point that you made,
Yeah.
that we don't treat our history and the Portuguese wrestlers that had influence, that we don't know them. They are
Without them, we'd be nothing.
yeah. So that's a very good point, and that's something that I will stress right now, just in Portuguese. Estávamos a falar de como o Mad Dog, aliás, estava a dizer de wrestlers portugueses, o Tarzan da Borda, Carlos Rocha, por aí fora, que nós próprios portugueses não conhecemos, ou conhecemos muito pouco do trabalho deles. E é incrível como, e eu estava a dizer isto ao Mad Dog, como pessoas que não são portugueses sabem muito mais sobre o wrestling português do que um fã de português do wrestling, como eu. E, portanto, nós, de facto, muitas vezes não tratamos muito bem, fora das artes tradicionais que nós temos, não tratamos muito bem os nossos artistas, mesmo que sejam em nichos ou em cultos, não lhes damos o reconhecimento devido. E, portanto, acho que é um ponto bastante interessante com o Mad Dog. Sorry, Mad Dog, I had to bring this on because the point that you made was super interesting.
Yeah, but then going back to what you said, without CCW, maybe people would even forget that generation.
Yes.
CCW to me, like I say, when I first came here, it was starting almost from scratch. 40 people, 50 people, 60 people, and then sell out. But like I value CTW so much because they're carrying on that tradition that was forgotten. That tradition in Portugal, nobody even knew that there was wrestling here. But in the 70s and 80s, by God, it was so big. And without CTW, that would be gone, you know.
And that's one of the things that I like a lot about CTW is that you do a current thing,
Yes,
but you are able to honor the past.
both. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you do a balance between the two things.
Yeah.
And for me, that is wonderful because I think that's the way of building things.
Of course. yes.
Because everything was created. Everything, we reimagine things. We recreate things. So we need to look into the past to see what we are going to do in the future.
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting the job and the balance that CTW does. And going back to the experience bit, for me it was very interesting because, and I was talking this off mic, so the experience that I have is more with WWE house shows.
Yeah.
So it's a very different kind of wrestling show in the sense of it's in bigger arenas and it's more unpersonal. So the atmosphere, like you have fun because it's more family friendly and they have more comedy, but still it's a little bit impersonal.
Yeah.
And what I loved, and Ricardo also loved, was that being on the smaller environment,
Yes.
but with a full house, with a packed house, how the people were interacting and how people were like just disconnecting and just interacting with what they were seeing.
Going back to what I said earlier, you know, when I wrestle, so like when I'm in that ring for 20 minutes, I forget my stress and my problem, just like you said about your theatre background.
Yeah.
That's what they get. They pay so many euros and they come in and they get to forget that they angry with the landlord or forget that they fell out with their wife or, you know, say everybody doesn't get on with the boss, you know?
Yeah,
so like
of course.
when that bad guy wrestler comes out and he winds you up and and you lose your temper, you lose your stress for 2 hours, you get to pay 6-7 euros, sit down and forget the world, and you can scream at the bad guys and you can cheer the good guys. Just like for me, for 20 minutes that I'm in the ring, I can forget my problems. For 2 hours, those wrestling fans can sit down and forget their problems. They can scream, they can shout, they can cheer, they can boo. And for 2 hours, it's like therapy. It's like stress relief, you know?
It's really important that the audience interact. Without the audience, there's no show.
Yeah.
Obviously, without the wrestlers, there's no show. So it's a mixture of the two.
Hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want a short live historical story, I went and saw my first wrestling show back in 1965. Now, I need to be careful here or I'm going to give my age away. Back in 1965. You had to be 14 to go in on your own. I pretended I was with the family in front and paid my own ticket, went in. Watched the show. It was awesome. And I wanted to go and watch another one, and the next nearest show that was being televised was some 60 kilometres away, and at the age of 12 I travelled 60 kilometres on my own to go and watch this show 60 kilometres away, and it was absolutely fabulous. I was so disappointed in the summer when they stopped doing the shows locally, because in the summer they would actually go to the seaside and do all the seaside events almost every day. Because the holiday makers were at the seaside, so there were very few people in the towns in the industrial areas. So the venues at the seaside would show the shows. You would have one on a Monday, and then 30 kilometres away you'd have another one on Tuesday, and so on around the coast. And the wrestlers would go from event to event.
Okay, and do you have any role models from those days? Any famous wrestler that you saw back in your first show? Do you remember any?
Yeah, there was a tag match, and I remember seeing the Borg twins. Now they were from Malta.
Malta.
Yeah, okay. Those are the only ones I can remember from that show. But from the second show, we had Mick McManus, who was a really bad guy, and Steve Logan, who was also a bad guy. I only remember the bad guys from that one.
That's very interesting. Mad Dog, do you remember the first wrestling show that you attended?
Yeah. It was in my hometown at the local town hall, which housed like 1,000 people. It was a big show, and there's lots of people I saw live. Like I saw Blondie Barrett and Johnny Kidd and people like this. Like if you put them into Google, their names they fire up, and Scrubber Daly and names like this. And the good privilege for me, being an English wrestler, is I've got to wrestle those 20 years later. I've got to be on the same show as them, or I've got to tag with them or wrestle against them. And that's a sense of achievement, Like when I was 13 in the front row, I was like watching them. And then I made my first match when I was 15. So 2 years later, I was all of a sudden on the same show with these people.
That must be surreal.
It was surreal. Yeah, it was. Like sometimes I would just go and hide in the toilet and breathe, just trying to take it in,
Yeah. And of course, we've had people like Blondie Barrett here in Portugal.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes,
we have.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know about
Yeah.
that. From my experience, well, I watched some early 90s WWF, but I have almost no recollection of that. My first real recollection is 1999 and 98 WCW. That's
good era.
That's
I'm
when
a WCW fan. I understand.
Yeah, when I start to see guys just doing somersaults and
Oh, well,
the lucha.
Do you know what? If you don't mind me jumping in here, it was that era that made me want to be a wrestler, because I'm only 5'6". I'm not a tall guy, and I saw Rey Mysterio, Lash LaRue, Chavo Guerrero, Eddie Guerrero, Prince Iakea, Juventud Carrera, Jushin Liger. I could go on and on and on. I could listen. And then 3 years ago, I was on a show with Rey Mysterio. Oh. Okay? So I'm on the same show. Obviously, he's main event, and I'm like, So all the normal wrestlers like me are like, wow, Rey Mysterio. And everyone's scared to knock the door. So, I knock the door. He opens the door. Hey, I was like, do you mind if I come in for 2 minutes? And he's very nice guy, Rey Mysterio. So I go inside and I tell him this story. I said, the only reason I'm a wrestler is because of the WCW, 98, 99, 2000, because always they would put the cruiserweights on for the first hour. You remember this, see?
Yeah.
And I told him all this, and I said, my family, they said, no, you can't be a wrestler. You're too small. And I would just say, well, look at Ray, look at Chavo, look at Eddie Guerrero, And I told him this, and he hugged me. He says, okay, I'm glad I inspired you. So I got 2 minutes from Rey Mysterio Jr. to tell him thank you, because that's the only reason I'm a wrestler now. Yeah. But that's strange, because you bring up the same era. Maybe we're a similar age, I don't know.
More or less, yeah. But that's very, very nice to hear, because that's when I fell in love with wrestling.
Me too.
That's when I was watching WCW with Liz Mark, Blitzkrieg, Jovi Guerrero, like all those matches, and I was like, what the hell is
they
going on?
They were the best matches in the world.
It was super fun, and I was just so glued to my seat. And
same.
That's when I fell in love. And then, of course, after the Attitude Era in 2003, then I started watch more WWE, because, of course, then the business changed, of course. Yeah, all those stuff. But, it was 1999 WCW.
Same.
Because it was just so spectacular. And at the time, they had so much freedom
Yeah.
in the ring.
Yeah.
They were allowed to be themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was rare, you know, and it's still rare today. But those cruiserweights were allowed to show who they were. And like I said, that I wouldn't be a wrestler now if it wasn't for that cruiserweight era of WCW. So it's very strange you bring that up.
Yeah,
I still have some of the magazines from that era
Hey.
at home. Yeah.
And I've like going back to that era. I've been on shows. I've tagged with Juventud Guerrera. I've tagged with Ultimo Dragon.
Oh.
I've wrestled a lot of those guys because obviously being the same size as them,
Yeah.
and then obviously getting into the business later on. I've been in the ring with so many of those WCW stars. That cruiserweight era, it's just awe-inspiring for me.
Yeah, in the 90s there was a lot of
Phenomenal.
I remember that when I watched 1999 WCW, then I went to Japan. So I went to
you've been?
no. I went to watch.
yeah.
Sorry, my apologies. So I went to watch Pegasus Kid and I don't remember Lionheart.
Yes.
And all those things. Lionheart,
Yeah.
Chris Jericho.
Yes,
not
yes, and
Lionheart.
Pegasus being Benoit, and I know, yeah.
So
yeah.
I was just glued because
Yeah.
it was so fascinating. Of course, Japanese style, it's different. It's
Yeah.
not as spectacular in the
It's-
sense of the flying, but
It's more grounded and more
Yeah.
sports oriented, but that's no problem for me. That's
Yeah.
the style I like anyway, you know.
yeah. And honestly, for me, growing up, no, I'm more of a fan of that style nowadays.
Yeah.
Than
The larger than life stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
because for me now makes sense the more sports orientated approach to it.
Well,
No?
you would like British wrestling then, because that's in the same vein. you know?
I wanted to touch a little bit, not only British wrestling,
Yeah.
but also because what we have seen in Europe the last few years is a boom of European wrestling.
Yes.
So the boom on the UK,
Yeah.
that is the biggest one. But then you have the boom in Germany with, sorry, I'm trying to translate, X...
WXW.
yeah, the WXW. In Spain, you have a mini boom with La Triple W, I think. So you are witnessing a little bit of a boom of European wrestling with, of course, then the WWE NXT UK thing, which also is like, it's like, how you say it, a thing becomes popular and then the big corporation comes and makes a knockoff of that.
Yeah.
Basically, that's it.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to watch how the British style became mainstream.
Yeah.
Because for many years, and I remember that when I used to hear about the UK scene, it would be like the Williams, Nigel McGuinness, but only a selected group.
Yeah,
Till-
but what you were hearing of just that selective group, there was still wrestling going every night. There were still shows going, and it stayed alive. The difference between the British scene and other scenes, just much like the Portuguese scene, you know, when like the WWE came to town and people like Horacio Gola and Tabosh kind of died off, Portuguese wrestling died off, and that happened. That's a fact. Same happened in France, not so much in Germany, but like in England, it kept going. It kept going. So even though it was underground, it never stopped. In Portugal, it stopped. In other countries, it stopped. In Germany, I would say it carried on, but in England, it really carried on. It might have been underground, but there were shows every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, no matter what. There might have been smaller crowds, but it never, ever stopped. It was always part of our culture, if that makes sense. So then, when it was time for the resurgence, British wrestling found it easy because the wrestlers were still there, and they were already there, and they're ready to go, you know?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that took it underground was it coming off the television, off the commercial television back in the when was it, Matt?
Early
1980s, yeah.
Yeah.
It came off and the audiences just plummeted. So the number of shows went down and it went underground.
But it never stopped.
If I'm not mistaken, World of Wrestling was in ITV? Or
Yes,
That's right.
ITV,
Yes,
yeah,
it was part of World of Sport
Sport,
on
yeah,
Saturday
yeah.
That's
afternoon,
it.
4 o'clock. But interestingly enough, the show that got the highest number of people watching was on FA Cup Day one year. And they had 12 million people watch the wrestling at 12:30 because the football was on at 3 o'clock, so they couldn't show
the
it at
lead-in.
4. So they had a live wrestling show at 12:30, had 12 million people watch it, and it was more than the people who actually watched the football.
The way I can put that into context is, imagine if wrestling was on at 12 o'clock on your TV, then at 1 o'clock Sporting were playing Benfica, and more people watched the wrestling. Truth.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years
Amazing.
in a row. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now,
Yeah.
because over the years, of course, I learned about the history of world of sports, but I didn't know about that story.
Yeah.
So it's
More people watch wrestling than football,
Yeah.
and that's the way I can put it into context. Because the FA Cup final will be like like in the Copa del Rey or something like that.
Yeah.
Imagine if Sporting and Benfica were playing on TV,
Yeah.
and an hour before you had Red Eagle on, and more people watched Red Eagle. Seriously, that's how it was in our country for many years. Many years, yeah.
that's something. So
Yeah.
sorry, I'm still surprised, and it's very interesting. I wanted to well, we can go back to the European scene, but going back to CTW because it's what connects us.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
For me, it was such welcoming and warming experience because I was near the ring. I could hear, I could interact, I could see how different people reacted to different stuff. It was just so. I'm failing to remember the expression, but it was so. I don't know, close. I felt like a very personal thing, you know.
Like, yeah, it's like a very visceral experience. It's on hand, it's in your face, and that's what wrestling always should be. Wrestling has always been a working class sport, always been for the normal person. You know, it's never been for the elite. It's always been for a working class, so you can take your family, you can afford to take your grandma or afford to take your children, and that's how it was in the 70s and 80s in this country or in any country in Europe, and that's how it still is now. You know, if you go and watch the WWE and it's this big arena, you don't get the real feeling. But like real territory wrestling, like Portuguese wrestling, British wrestling, it's a family working class sport. And that's how it should be. Like you just described, being on the front row and you feel you're part of it, you get pulled in and you just, you forget your stress for 2 hours, like I said,
I think in Britain what made it respectable was that in the 1970s, Prince Charles went to watch a show in South London. And once he'd been to watch it, it was a thing that the family could actually go and watch and know that, well, if he goes and watches it.
Yeah, it's accepted.
It's accepted, yeah.
Yep.
That's a very interesting. Well, we are going to do a short break.
Okay.
So vamos fazer uma pequena pausa. Voltamos daqui a 3, 4 minutos. Até já. Estamos de volta. Só para fazer uma pequena recapitulação do que temos conversado, nós estávamos a falar um pouco de ver espetáculos de wrestling, os primeiros espetáculos de wrestling que tanto o David como o Mad Dog viram. Depois falámos um pouco também sobre a experiência no Reino Unido, em que falámos da experiência do World of Sports, que me contaram uma coisa que eu pessoalmente não sabia, que o World of Sports chegou a ter mais público a ver o World of Sports que a final da FA Cup. FA Cup, right?
Yes.
Yeah. A final da FA Cup, o que é uma coisa incrível. E o espetáculo de wrestling era cerca de 1h30 antes, e teve mais espectadores que o futebol. Isto foi no período áureo, como é óbvio, mas tem sido uma conversa bastante agradável. Estávamos a falar um pouco quais foram as primeiras experiências com o wrestling que tivemos. Curiosamente, eu e o Mad Dog temos mais ou menos a mesma origem, que é ali no final dos anos 90, com uma promoção americana chamada WCW, que tinha um estilo mais vistoso de wrestling. E pronto, e está a ser esta nossa conversa. Eu de vez em quando vou fazendo algumas pausas para fazer pequenos resumos do que é que estamos a falar, mas pronto, como onde compreender, não consigo, nem seria bom para a nossa conversa estar sempre a parar e a começar, portanto vou de vez em quando fazendo só uma pequena pausa para ir fazendo pequenos resumos. Para quem não nos pode totalmente compreender, as nossas desculpas hoje é um programa um bocadinho diferente, mas obrigado por estarem connosco e por me seguirem, e agora vamos voltar à conversa com os nossos convidados. So sorry, I was doing
it's fine.
a recap, a very brief recap of what we spoke for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry that we can't do Portuguese for you.
By the way, do you guys understand a little bit of Portuguese or just a couple of words?
I was getting some words there, and I could maybe understand, but not reciprocate the conversation. I've been maybe to Portugal 20 times now, so I understand like very basics. Hello, thank you. Can I have the beer, or can I have a bifana, or can I have sopa? But like when you talk, I could maybe get every fifth word. Yeah. So not understood it, but kind of understood what you were saying, if that makes any sense.
It's about the same.
Yeah.
I have a question about linguistics now to
Okay.
ask. Do you find Spanish easier to understand than Portuguese?
No.
Okay.
For me personally, and I think this is for anybody my age. Maybe David's different because he's from a different generation, and I don't know how he was educated language-wise. But like in our school, second languages weren't taken seriously. Okay. So like history, geography, mathematics, science were very important subjects. And then you picked either Spanish, French, or German as a language. And it was always like a third tier subject, and like it wasn't taken seriously. And I think that's almost an arrogance on the English side, because everybody speaks English. And I wish now, if I went back, I would learn a language properly. But I was thought, I'll never leave this country. I don't need a language. That was my opinion as a 13-year-old young man. You know, I don't need a language. And now I travel all over the world, and I wish I had a second language. You know, the education system wasn't great when it came to language. For me personally, I don't know about David.
Yeah, it was a very, very far distant subject. There was one teacher who taught a bit of French. She left, so there was no French. So I can manage M'appelle David, and that's about it.
That's very interesting. I asked because of a different topic. Is usually Portuguese is very difficult language to learn.
It's very fast.
Yes, but it's also the way we move our mouth.
Yes.
It's very different.
Yeah, I see it.
And, usually, from experience, it's easier to understand either Spanish than Portuguese.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's more likely for people to learn how to speak Spanish or to understand than Portuguese because of the way the mouth works.
There's different pronunciations even of the same word, and you'll roll your tongue more or you'll speak quicker. I noticed this, but I'll give you an example. I'm from the Black Country in the Midlands, like Wolverhampton, as we discussed earlier. So when I'm on holiday, people say, "Oh, are you from Birmingham?" No. Like Birmingham, everybody knows because it's a big city, but Wolverhampton, because of the football, you know. Birmingham people speak very slowly, and they'll say, hello, I'm from Birmingham, and I'll say, hello, I'm from the Black Country. We speak a lot quicker. So when I go abroad and I try and speak, foreign people say, slow down, slow down. So I do understand that in regards to Portuguese language, because I know it's very similar to Spanish. There's certain words that are the same, but like Red, who's my good friend and I've known for years, he speaks so much quicker than my Spanish friends, you know. So I know to kind of like tune into that speed of talk, and then I can kind of understand a little bit better, you know.
And for me, I have a funny story to tell you.
Please.
Because oddly enough, I had a boss that a former boss that was from Leicester.
Okay.
So
Someone has to be from Leicester.
East Midlands.
Yes. So the first few times that he started speaking with me in English, I was like, what the hell is
Don't know what he's saying.
like because I'm used to, you know, standard English.
Yes.
The Queen's English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it comes the Midlands English. And I go just like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And it was very interesting.
It's quite surprising that Leicester is about 40 kilometres from my house. You'll have a completely different accent for the English language there. For Birmingham, which is 30 kilometres from my house, you'll have a completely different accent from mine. I don't think I've got much of an accent.
No.
And in Wolverhampton, because my ears are used to the different English, there's even a different language accent 15 kilometres away. So it's quite surprising.
And for me, it's weird because I've been into Leicester and I've been to York. And it's different.
Yes.
Totally different.
Yes. Oh, yes, it will be, because that's
even
up
from
north.
Leicester to Birmingham to Warwick to Wolverhampton, completely different.
Yeah.
To the point that I'm from the Black Country, and I'm now very consciously speaking English to speak to you. So if I was English, I'd go, "Hello, how are you?" But if I saw my granddad or my grandfather, "How been ya?"
Yeah.
That's all I'd say. So you think, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
You know, they call us yam yams because we say yam 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 a lot. You know, we just say different things. You know, like it could be, oh, how are you? I'll go, I'm ya, my mate.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's
We
the
need
same
subtitles
language.
for this.
Yeah, no, you need. So, how are you, my friend? Oh, I'm you, my mate. You know, and if it's a bloke, I'll go, oh, I'm your cocker. Or if it's a lady, I'll go, oh, I'm your bab. But no English person, even people from London, don't understand what I'm saying. It's colloquial language,
Yeah.
but that's something I'm very proud of. That's why
Of
when you were
course.
at the show in Ajuda the other day, I always insist that I'm an ex from the Black Country, not from the Midlands, because the Midlands doesn't identify to me.
Yeah.
It's the Black Country. But I understand this because people from Lisbon and people from Porto are very different people,
Yeah,
and I'm not
exactly.
stupid. You know, like for instance, because we spoke about the amount of Wolverhampton players that have moved to Wolverhampton, Portuguese players that have moved to Wolverhampton, this kind of thing. There's now a cafe in Wolverhampton that serves Superboc, Sagres, and Bifana. Serious. Like,
Really?
There's two, right? So I've been to Lisbon 20 times and I love Lisbon. I sit there and I go, 2 Superboc and 1 Bifana. Okay, easy. The Bifana comes and it's got all this tomato sauce all over it. And I said, this is not a Bifana. Bifana has garlic on it and this. And she goes, no. This is Porto Bifana. I'm like, huh? But that reminds me of from the Black Country to London to York
Yeah,
to Warwick.
absolutely,
And
yeah.
like, and she says, no, it's a Porto Bifana. I thought, I just want a Lisbon Bifana. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Just
makes
that
sense.
small cultural difference, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I don't know if you wanted to add something. Maybe.
Yeah, we've actually got 2 Portuguese. Well, we'd had 2 Portuguese cafes in Leamington and Warwick, which is where I live. We've only got one now, one's closed. But we went in the one in Warwick. Oh dear, no,
No.
no.
Whereas-
It didn't reflect anything like going into a cafe
In
here. I'm
Portugal.
afraid.
Whereas
No,
the one
no,
in
not at all.
Lisbon, the one in Wolverhampton's very good. They might make Porto Bifana, but everything else is good.
That's very interesting. And I asked because it's very curious.
Yeah.
And like you were saying about the expressions, that was my reaction the first time my boss spoke. Because he was also adjusting. He was here and he was like still translating his
I
English
understand.
to us. And I was like, what the hell is he
Yeah.
talking about? You know, very, very fast with
Very quick.
very quick with the level and the noise. It was very low. So I just said yes. I will take care of it.
But really, you're thinking, please slow down.
yeah. But after a few months, you get used to it.
Yeah.
And I got used to it as I have got used to York But York is a little bit more. You don't notice much.
Slower and it's easier to understand.
Yes. But Leicester, no. Leicester, God no.
You've got to come to Wolverhampton. That will blow your mind, I promise you.
Yeah,
And Liverpool,
Liverpool,
and
Newcastle.
Manchester, and Glasgow. You would think we were talking a completely different language. You really would.
yeah. Just one side note. Once on my day job, I received a phone call from Kirkwall. Is it
Yeah.
Kirkwall? So, and I was like, for those who don't know, and to who is listening to this conversation, I'm talking about the Scottish Islands.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
You're talking long way
Oh
away.
my, yeah.
And it's just, I was like, what is going on
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
'Cause I-
Even I would struggle to understand that, and I'm from England, so I understand. Yeah,
So that from Lisbon to London is the same distance from London to Kirkwall.
to give you an idea.
That's
yeah,
it. So yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Yes.
true.
So I was just like, what is going on? And I was just like, yes, I understand.
Just nod and smile.
Yeah. Please write an email, please. And I will come back to you.
Like we're nodding and smiling at you because we haven't got a clue what you're saying.
joke.
So getting back, sorry, this was a fun sidetrack of the conversation. But getting back to CTW.
Yeah.
For me and Ricardo, I will speak about Ricardo's perspective because for me, I was very into who is a heel, who is a baby face, seeing the dynamics. Also, because I'm a little bit of a geek, I was analyzing the match. So,
Would you say then Ricardo was more of an outsider, so his
Yeah.
opinion was like from outside looking in? Because
Yes,
to me, his opinion is more important, and I don't mean that
No,
bad.
no, I
I
understand.
respect your opinion,
Yeah.
but I want to know what people who aren't wrestling fans. I want to know what they think because that's how I base what I do. You know?
And I think your perspective is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm biased. My eyes are trained.
Yes.
I'm looking at other things.
Yeah.
You know,
Which is good too. It's equally as important, but I want to know what Ricardo said.
Yeah, but I'm over analyzing things.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
watching the match structure. I'm watching a little bit of everything. And Ricardo is just enjoying it.
Could I give you one piece of advice though, just from that before you even
Yeah.
say? Enjoy it more. Don't
Yeah, yeah.
overanalyze it. You know, you just relax
It
and
doesn't
sit
take
back.
a lot of analysing.
Yeah,
it really
yeah.
doesn't.
No, I know. But you know, for me, because I'm such a fan,
Yeah,
when I was
yeah.
analyzing, it was just more to understand the product that I
Yes.
was watching.
I
you know?
understand that.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
From a professional standpoint.
You know,
Yes.
of course, I have no say in pro wrestling because I'm just a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But because I watch a lot of wrestling, I was just, analyzing, seeing a little bit. But like you were saying, for me, and that's why for me, Ricardo's perspective is the one that counts.
Same.
Is he he's not filtered, he's not overanalyzing, he's just enjoying.
Yeah.
You know, he's just taking for what it is. He's not seeing the timings.
Face
anything.
value.
Yeah, just that. And for me, that's wonderful. You know, that somebody, and eventually I was able to okay, let's stop analyzing things.
I bet, yeah.
And just enjoy
with the
it.
flow.
And that's what I did.
I'd almost rather watch you through his eyes than mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you like a thing so much, you tend then to get too close to the subject matter.
Yes.
Sometimes. So you lose a little bit of the enjoyment of the thing. And you start to, okay, this part and that part. And when you're just enjoying as a fan and just as a new experience, you're taking the emotions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree exactly with you.
Yeah.
And fortunately, further along the show, I was able just to switch it off and enjoy pro wrestling.
Because of how he was enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
of
It's
course.
yeah.
infectious, isn't it?
Yeah, because I was trying to explaining some rules, and he was like, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. And he shouldn't care.
Yeah,
he should
yeah,
just see
that's
what's
right.
in front. Yeah.
Yes,
I
just
wish
go
he was
with it.
here. I really wish he was here. I'm upset he's ill, mate. You got to make sure next time if he was here.
Yeah. He wanted to be here.
Yeah.
If it was not for being sick, he would love to be here. But just to say, like, he was telling me, I don't care about the rules because I was trying to explain it. So this happens because of this. He cannot do this. He cannot do that. I was like, I don't care.
He was just enjoying
Just enjoy
himself.
it, yeah,
And for me, for a brief second, the fan in me, I got a little bit thrown off. Because I take it seriously.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it's pro wrestling. It's
Yeah.
something I love.
Yeah.
But once I just switch it off, it was the best thing I did.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, because I was just enjoying.
Yeah.
I didn't care about, what I was analyzing before. I was just having fun and enjoying the crowd.
I can give you another perspective to that. Often when I wrestle, I will sit there and I will see it from my point of view, similar to your point of view. I understand wrestling, I understand the rules, I understand what you should do and I understand what you shouldn't do. I understand what's valued, I understand what's not valued. And then every now and again I think, well, what would the casual fan think? What would the laid-back fan, like this Ricardo, what would he think? And when I wrestle for the Ricardos of the world, I have a better match. When I stop thinking about what I would want to see and I think what the fans would want to see, the matches are better and it's more well received, and I come backstage and I'm like, oh my God, the sound was so much louder. When I stop over analysing what I'm doing and I start wrestling for that casual fan, that person that might have just walked in by accident, that family that's only became because the kids are there, when I start wrestling for that kind of demographic, just like your friend who's who's ill right now, when I start wrestling for those people, everybody else falls in line and everything else works. So I can give you the other perspective of that from behind the curtain,
And that's the beauty of pro wrestling.
Yes.
Because when you have a hardcore fan, that fun is already won.
They're already buying the ticket.
Yeah, he will always come.
Yeah.
So no matter if he enjoys the structure or whatever, he will always come. But the fan that is seeing for the first time, that's the fan that you have to
wrestle for every man. The every person. Yeah.
And the beauty of the pro wrestling is also adapt to the crowd and to the environment that you have.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
So that's another lovely thing of wrestling is just...
I'm always told when I got into wrestling, have a third ear. And I'm like, what's this third ear? What do you mean? So, we've got 2 ears and that's easy. But halfway through a match, you can have this idea that you think, I'm going to do this and everybody will be impressed, or I'm going to do this and everybody will be happy. And halfway through the match, you read the crowd and you might need to change your game plan. Just like another sport, say if you're boxing and you're going to say, I'm going to do the left jab all day, and he's countering the left jab, you've got to change your plan. But for a wrestler, it's the third ear because you listen to your audience. It's just that third ear inside. And if they're not quite buying what you're doing, change it, because you should be wrestling for the majority of the crowd and not yourself. But it's always wrestle for that casual fan. That guy at the back who's a little bit sceptical, when you pull him in, you've got everybody. If that makes sense,
And that was the beauty of Saturday.
Yeah.
Because you won a fan over, Ricardo, and you won a fan of me of coming again.
Because of that. Yeah, that's even better. That's better that's the best compliment.
Of course, yeah. March the 21st, by the way.
We were going to get there.
That was a convenient
It was a good shot. Shot. Just saying that it was very fun.
Yeah.
The event was very fun. The atmosphere is very traditionally Portuguese in a way that, you are in a venue, in I don't know, association, let's call it association. And, to feel that warm feeling of the crowd. And you have such a great crowd, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I was very impressed because I read some things, I've seen some things, but being there live is
very
totally
different.
Yeah,
it's totally different.
And it must be very rewarding for you guys to...
It is. I've been doing this now for getting on for 10 years, and maybe that's the subject of another show, if you want me back.
Of course.
But I've got to a point now where I can actually look at the audience and analyse the audience while I'm actually talking, and I can see the faces. And the look of surprise when some of the things that we did at the last show happened was absolutely awesome, and I loved every second of seeing that wasn't expected.
Okay.
Whoa, that's not part of the plot.
Yeah.
I was always told that wrestling should be like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So it's up and down, and for the big one it's tick, 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 and then boom. I was always told wrestling should be like a roller coaster, but the whole show should be like a circus. Okay. So if you've got a family of 10 people come, grandchildren, cousins, mom, dad, nana, you should always have something for everyone. So if you go to the circus, right, you might like the clown. And I don't like the clown, but the guy who gets shots at the cannon?
Yeah,
I like that. And then the guy that walks the tightrope and doesn't fall off, David might like that. And everybody would like something. It's just that I always like the guy that shot at the cannon. That's why I'm a professional wrestler, But there should be something for everybody.
Right, yes.
That's a wrestling show.
And I think the card was well structured in that, honestly,
I think so.
because it offered a little bit of comedy. It offered a little bit of everything. So that's very interesting. And for me, I think, and you guys should be proud.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Because, like I said, I'm a fan for a huge time, and I started to hear CTW's name
Yeah.
probably the last 2 years, and slowly my interest in things started to appear on my radar. Because we are like we were mentioning earlier in the conversation, we don't value the things that we do here. So for me, what I consume is mainly American.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you know what? That's one of my biggest bugbear with Portuguese people. I love the Portuguese. I love this country. This is why I keep coming back. Because I could take a booking in France or Germany or Switzerland. And if I get a booking in Lisbon at the same time, I always pick Portugal. But my biggest bugbear with the Portuguese, and I say this from the heart because I love the Portuguese people, you don't value your own things enough.
Exactly.
And I mean that from a place of love, because I probably love your product more than you. I love your food, your beer, your football, your culture more than your average Portuguese person in the street. And that can sometimes upset me, because I'm like, open your eyes and look what you've got on your own street before you look on what's America or what's in France. Or does that make sense? I think we've eaten the same subject. Yeah.
And for me, like I said, CTW started to appear on my radar maybe 2 years ago, and slowly I started to see more and more. And I started to get more interested, and now I'm consuming. I'm actually going to shows now. Fortunately, it was long overdue, but I just think that it's just the product that you have. You guys should be very proud of what you're doing. I know that is not easy task to do. To have, like you were saying, when you start to come here, you had 40 people, then you have 50.
And it grew and grew and grew.
And how does it feel like that?
I'm incredibly proud that I've been a part of rebuilding wrestling in this country, because for me, like I say, about all those past wrestlers from the 80s and 70s that I know about, because I am a wrestling historian, to be a part of that rebuild, I'm so proud. I'm sure you're the same, David.
Absolutely.
But it feels good,
I mean, I look at it probably from a slightly different perspective, because I'm not the wrestler, I'm the ring announcer. So we walk into an empty space. And I think as we walk into the empty space, in 24 hours or in 6 hours, this will be a wrestling ring with 100, 200, 300 people watching it. And 2 hours after it's finished, it'll be an empty space again.
Yeah.
And something wonderful has happened in that sort of 6-8 hour period that I will treasure for all my life.
yeah.
I enjoy doing it so much that I would just want it to expand more and go more around Portugal, so more people can see and enjoy the wrestling, the professional wrestling, because it's such a small sport here at the moment. So what we want to do is encourage more people to come and watch and enjoy and pass that information on to other people so they can enjoy as well.
That's very interesting. And one thing that my dog was talking about was the Portuguese people not giving proper value and recognition
to themselves.
Themselves, because
absolutely.
It's just that you guys are doing a wonderful job here, but you're not Portuguese, and you are more. Sorry, this is not a.
That's right.
You enjoy more and you have more passion, and you guys are helping us to cultivate the scene, to bring life to the scene.
Yeah.
And
But I will say this: there are Portuguese wrestlers like Red Eagle, Super Kid, like Rossi, like Claudia Bradstone, who are as passionate as me. They just mightn't be able to put it into words. But if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't want to be involved, because I've been wrestling for 20 years now. I've been wrestling for a very long time. I started here when I was 15 years old, and I come here and I see their passion. These Portuguese wrestlers, like I say, Red Eagle, Claudia Bradstone, Rossi, on and on and on, Super Kid, and all these people, they love it just as much as me. But I've seen them go from rookies who wouldn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch, all of a sudden to be experts, to be professionals. I saw them as trainees, as underlings, and now I see them as colleagues. So I know that we're not Portuguese, but I can sing on their behalf. I've seen them go from being people that I would go, all right, kid, maybe one day you'll be good, to consider them as colleagues. And these Portuguese wrestlers, God, they've worked hard to get where they are, you know. I was on the second show they ever ran, and they were like, I don't mean this a bad way, I mean it in a compliment, because they were nobodies, and now they're somebodies. I've seen, not only have I seen the scene grow, I've seen these wrestlers grow, you know. When I first met Red Eagle, he could only speak 2 words of English. You know, yes, no, that's it. Now he has a full conversation with me, but he wrestles in America, he wrestles in Japan, he wrestles all over Europe. So he's gone from being like an underling to being like a trainee to being like a colleague, someone I look up to myself. And that's how the Portuguese wrestling scene has grown. I can't sing highly enough of the Portuguese wrestlers. My promotion at home in England, I'll book them every day. I love them. You know, whenever they're in the country, I'll put them on my show because I know how passionate they are. I know how hard it's been because the Portuguese scene was dead. And they've made it alive. I know I've played a small part in that. I know Davey's played a small part in that, but without them, it wouldn't have happened. I can't sing those Portuguese wrestlers' praises enough because they are the guys that are here every day. You know, tomorrow I'm going to go home and I'm going to go to bed and I want to sleep and then I want to run a show in England and then I want to go to France or Switzerland, Japan, and then I'll come back. They live and breathe this scene every single day, and they deserve the real praise, you know.
Yeah, but I also have to congratulate both of you.
That's real nice.
You are doing a great service to our scene, and like I was saying, I've been seeing it more.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's getting outside of the bubble, and
it is.
More people are starting to hear the CTW name, and for me, honestly, that's a great thing because, like I was saying, I watch American wrestling.
Yeah.
Suddenly, I started to hear about this CTW, and little by little, I started to go in and try to discover more. And now I'm totally in, and I want more people to do the same journey as I did.
It will happen.
And a few things. That's why we have you guys here.
Yeah.
That's why going forward, I think we can both make this announcement.
Absolutely.
Radio Movimento and CTW will have a partnership. I don't know, David, if you want to say...
Yeah, I'm very pleased to announce the partnership between the radio and CTW, and that starts with immediate effect, and you guys watching this now and those who will hear about it will see the benefits of this in the coming months. We are taking our wrestlers to England, as Mad Dog's already said. We're going to Japan. We're going around the world. We're producing shows with our partner wrestling federations around the world. We're announcing the name of Portugal all over the world. More wrestlers from around the world want to come and wrestle here. That's good for the audience because they get to see lots of different wrestlers from lots of different countries who are happy to come and help to bring the name of professional wrestling much more up into the focus here in Portugal.
Yeah, and name recognition helps a lot to bring other friends.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It just skyrockets. It just snowballs on top, on top, on top.
I will give a small example. I started to hear about you guys because of All Snow, about Paul London.
Yeah.
Guys that came here doing workshops and other things.
Absolutely.
And suddenly I started,
who are these guys?
Who are these guys?
Yeah.
And then started and when Zack Sabre Jr. was here, I was like,
Yeah, it's not small fry that are coming, it's big names that are coming and want to come.
And Zack Sabre Jr. had wrestled in a big Japan show
Absolutely.
like the week before. He was a champion.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, how come he's in Portugal a week after that big match? You know, and so I think that's very important. Just I would just do the Portuguese.
Of course.
Então só para quem nos segue, nós temos tido uma conversa sobre o Pro Wrestling, sobre o produto da CTW, a experiência que tem sido, a perspectiva do Ricardo, a minha perspectiva de como, por exemplo, a minha perspectiva era uma perspectiva muito mais de analisar e depois conseguir desligar o cérebro e desportar. Desportar porque o Pro Wrestling é uma coisa que, quando se está lá, é completamente diferente de ver de casa. Ver na TV é uma coisa completamente diferente de estar sentado naquela sala, num ambiente muito mais acolhedor e só reagir, desligar o cérebro e aproveitar aquilo que tu estás a ver. É uma sensação extraordinária. E com base nisso, o David anunciou, e eu também anuncio, que a Rádio Movimento e a CTW vão ter uma parceria. Vai começar, vão ver mais wrestlers e vão ver mais notícias em breve. Nós vamos mantendo a par, mas temos todo o prazer em anunciar esta parceria. A CTW está a fazer muito pela cena de wrestling em Portugal, está a tentar dar-lhe credibilidade. Pessoas como o David e como o Mad Dog, que até sabem mais da história do wrestling português do que os próprios, muitos dos fãs do wrestling portugueses sabem, têm dado um contributo para dar nova vida à cena, e a CTW é uma promoção que eu acho que faz um trabalho muito meritório e que nós, Rádio Movimento, também queremos ajudar a dar mais visibilidade, para trazer mais fãs para esta coisa tão fantástica que é o mundo do pro wrestling, porque às vezes é um bocado ridicularizado, mas estando num espetáculo consegue-se experienciar coisas tão boas e desfrutar e reagir é tão bom. E portanto temos todo o prazer de anunciar esta parceria. Vamos dando novidades com o tempo a passar, e a CTW, e em parceria também com as outras promoções, a ITAP, a PWL, ajudam a levar o nome de Portugal a outras partes do mundo, a todo o mundo, basicamente. A ITAP no Japão, a PWL no Reino Unido, e portanto é um prazer. E pronto, vamos continuar com a entrevista em inglês. Sorry guys, I was just giving some context to what we were saying, and now for something a little bit different, I have two questions from people that no, this is for Mad Dog. So David, you're off the hook.
Very
You can sweat
interesting.
now.
So first, Ruben Gomes is asking when Mad Dog returns to Baixa da Banheira.
When
Mad Dog returns to Baixa da Banheira. Baixa da Banheira is on the other side of the river.
okay, so we wrestled there a long time ago. I've wrestled there. Whenever CCW takes me there, I will go. I will go wherever CCW orders me to go. But I'll say that one time I did wrestle over the other side of the river. It was very fun. The people were very nice. People were very generous, and I liked it there. So it was a good place. We've been there a few times, yeah.
Just a small side note, I'm from the other side of the
Oh,
river.
there you go, okay.
Yeah, it's different from Lisbon.
Yeah.
It's a different dynamic.
Yes.
I would say a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
And the people in Lisbon in general are welcoming, but like I would say that it was very welcoming over the river. You know, it was, hi Mad Dog, how you doing? You know, very friendly. So yeah. I'll go back anytime I can.
And the second question is, so Mad Max, they are asking if chewing the title of CTW gave you a stomach bug.
No, I've got an iron stomach. I can drink many beers and drink much food. No, iron stomach, no problem. When you're under the spotlight, your gimmick really comes through. They call it your wrestling gimmick, but your real personality comes through. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of a little bit crazy. They don't call me Mad Dog for nothing. You know, I didn't choose that name. Promoters gave me that name. So yeah, I kind of lost it a little bit, but that's just who I am. No stomach problems whatsoever.
But that's the beauty of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
It's just I was speaking of theater earlier.
Yeah.
Because I find some similar things. Because sometimes you just go with the flow.
Yeah.
You know, you are reacting to what you're seeing, and you just go, and it's just so wonderful to see what comes out of it.
It reminds me of two aspects of theatre. Improvisation, you know, improvisational comedy or improvisational theatre, that is on the spot, and also method acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so two different things, but both fall into wrestling, because when I'm doing what I do, you know, when I ate the belt and all this kind of thing, that wasn't planned, that wasn't written for me. It's just who I am. It's just that when the spotlight's on you and you're wrestling, your personality just goes from 2 to 10. You know, you turn the amp right up. So like, I don't take back anything that I did, but it was just who I am, if that makes sense. You know, kind of crazy.
But that's the beauty of it.
Yeah,
like the improv part of things. Is because you get fueled by what you're feeling, what the crowd gives you, and the best things come out of it. You know,
100% the best things every time.
Like I'm just going slightly to give an American example.
Yeah.
Last year there was a huge angle in WWE, which was part of it was unscripted. So it was like a major angle, and suddenly the person started to bleed. Now, it wasn't supposed to be bleeding.
But what are you going to do? Ignore the blood? No.
Yeah,
No.
In this case, Becky Lynch, that's the example that I'm giving. She embraced the thing and made
Something out of it.
Something
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
it,
yeah.
and like a movement came
Yeah.
out of it,
Yeah.
of something that was not planned.
It's very important.
Yeah.
You can't ignore things like that. It must be an organic process, or don't do it at all. You know.
That's very, very interesting. And just to say, Ricardo, thanks you for your kind words.
Ah.
He also says that he wished to be here, and he also congratulates you on all the theater component of the spectacle.
Ah, awesome.
Because Ricardo is more a theater head than me.
Well, make sure he's there on the 21st. I want to shake his hand and have a super buck after my match. Tell him that, okay?
Yes, I will tell him that. He's watching the show, actually.
Awesome, awesome.
Good evening.
And you said a very great thing. Talk about, I don't know what you can talk about, but talk to me about the next show of CTW, when it will be. Just
Well,
some sidebar. I know that
I
you
can't
cannot...
give
Yeah, of course.
the big secrets away. What I can tell you is it's the 21st of March. It will be in the market in the middle of Ajuda. So
In the
it will
market.
be in the underground car park.
Oh.
So it will be one of those really cool shows. I saw the venue and I said to Red Eagle, we could do a show here. And it's proved so popular doing it in there that we're going to have another go at it, 21st of March.
Just a quick side note. I saw a picture from that show, and I was like, sorry, fuck.
No, phenomenal.
I have to see this thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, because...
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that you are announcing that the show is there.
It's so much fun doing it in there. It really is.
Yeah, because-
It's real, that underground feeling,
Yeah.
that visceral feeling,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And the subtle lights, it really is cool.
Because for me, I played a lot of video games, and I played a lot of wrestling video games.
Yeah.
And one of the things when I looked at photos of that arena, it was like, I remember the video games. And
Reminds me of WCW Mayhem. Do you remember that?
Yes.
When you could go backstage.
Yes,
and, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I think we're a similar age, you see. So WCW Mayhem reminds me exactly of that setting. You can go and throw something on him and this, that. Yeah, I get that. I get
and
that.
I was like, fuck, I have to see this. I have to be there to experience
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
you know, that again, beauty of pro wrestling is that you can do it in different venues and be a total different show.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
just looking from the pictures, I'm like, no, I have to see this vibe.
Mm-hmm.
This vibe is a completely different thing.
Yeah.
So, thank
Yeah.
you, David,
Yeah.
for sharing that
Yeah.
with us. Para quem nos ouve, o próximo show da CTW é dia 21 de março, no mercado, market, right?
In
Yeah.
the market.
No
That's it.
mercado da
Ajuda.
Ajuda. 6, right? 6 o'clock.
Yeah, doors 6, show
Okay.
7,
No sábado, Saturday, right?
Saturday.
Sábado, sorry. No, I'm in that part where I'm
Yeah.
switching
You
languages.
need a coffee.
Yeah. But só dizendo, é um sábado, as portas abrem às 6, o espetáculo começa às 7, os bilhetes normalmente são 5 euros, com os bilhetes VIP a serem 10 euros. Os bilhetes VIP têm direito a um meet and greet. Aconselho bastante, o meet and greet é bastante interessante. Now back to English. Sorry, I was
Okay.
just
Yeah,
speaking
that's
about
fine.
the meet and greet because, by the way, Ricardo said this is a deal. The beer thing and everything.
Yeah, we finished the match super
Yeah,
Bowl.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's a deal.
He wants to go. Hopefully, he's better by then.
Yeah.
And just to say one thing, meet and greet, because for me it was something that struck a chord with me. So we are human, right?
Yes.
And we are performers.
Yes.
Everybody in their field. Here is somewhat of a performance. It's more of a talking thing, but there's also some performance aspects
Yeah.
to it. In the theater, there's a lot of performance to it. And for me, the fascinating bit of the meet and greet is seeing different approaches to the meet and greet. So there's people that do meet and greets in person, so they are being Claudio or whatever that person, the civil name is,
Yeah.
and people that are in character. And for me, that's the
Yeah.
beauty of
Yeah.
it, because you get different things all in the same room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was such a interesting experience, at least for me, because I was like, this is wonderful. I get people here that are just being themselves, and there's people that are carrying on, they are living the gimmick. as
Yeah,
they say.
that's probably me, you could say, you know. Yeah.
You see, it's part of the total package of coming to watch the show. We provide a meet and greet, and you can get really up close and personal with the character.
And the one difference that I can say, and this is for me personally, I'll be honest, you say people are being themselves. I'm acting now. I'm pretending to be a normal, genuine, down-to-earth human being, and that takes a lot of effort. But when I'm wrestling, I'm myself. And, in that meet and greet, I'm myself. But when I have to be official and do a radio interview, or I have to go and, meet somebody and be official, then that's when I have to put the act on. People think it's the other way around, and it's not. When I'm in the ring and I'm doing all these crazy things, that's me. And that's the one moment in my life that I feel free right now. You can say it's Clark Kent and Superman. Well, right now I'm being Clark Kent, and I'm working very hard to do that because I don't want to be there. I want to be Mad Dog Max, but right now I'm being official because I need to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's the opposite for me.
But you're one hell of an actor because I'm
you.
enjoying a lot of this interview, and the point that you just made for me, it's super interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very interesting to see different standpoints and different opinions and how you approach things. And it's just, for me, it's wonderful.
Like, I'll give you an example. When you're ready to close this interview up, if you maybe give me 2 minutes to speak into the mic, I'll actually be Mad Dog Max, and I'll tell Leo Rossi exactly what I'm going to do to him on the 21st of March. But I guarantee you, when I finish that, I need to walk out that door and I need to breathe, because that's the real me. Maybe you can tell now because I'm breathing a little bit heavier, and it's like that Mad Dog Max is coming through. But that's the real me, And I kind of want to smash this table, but I'm not doing it. It's the opposite for me.
But I will give you one thing. In theater, I felt a little bit of the same.
I bet.
Of course, it's amateur theater, so I know. But it's just, I could do things that usually have a filter. So when I'm, like you were saying, here, I'm being a filtered version of myself.
Yes.
Of course, I don't have that many constraints, but still, I have to have a filter. When I'm in the theater, I just can do whatever I want, and that is the real me.
It's empowering.
It's a different world.
It releases those endorphins. It let you be yourself. You could be 10 foot tall.
And you feel like it, and the ability of share it with the audience. That's for me a great joy, because you even grow bigger. Because you're already being yourself, but seeing that people are connecting.
They feed off it.
Feed off it. You just grow bigger and more confident into it. So that is pretty great for me, honestly. It's just, we stumbled in a very interesting point.
I think we obviously have a similar opinion on that, though, so that helps,
Yeah, of course. Other people would say different things, but of course, we still have 15 minutes, more or less, 20 minutes. So I just wanted to... I don't know if you want to speak other aspects of CTW that you want to share with us.
Yeah, I can do something like that. So we have the show on the 21st in the market in the Judah. The week after that, some of the CTW wrestlers and other partners will be flying off to Japan for a month. Then we come back. We've got Lisbon Games Week to do. We've got a May show to do. More about that another day. And then we have a huge show to do in Japan in October. And we'll talk more about that on another show. Okay. But that doesn't forget what we do here in Portugal, in Lisbon. And the plan is that we will have a show every month right through the year, and in that way we hope to pull in more people to come and watch on a regular basis. And it's such a cool thing to do, and we will endeavour to give our best at every single show that we do.
I have a question specifically for you, Dave. How is seeing the beginning, when they were rookies, and now seeing them nowadays? How is what you feel when you see like a guy that barely could do a wrist lock or running the ropes, which is one of the first few things, and now looking at them and seeing personalities and seeing their career and them evolving as personas, what you feel about it?
I've seen 2 starts to 2 wrestling federations right across the world. So I'm talking about the federation in Hong Kong Wrestling Federation. I went to one of their very first shows back in 2010, and they had 23 people in a warehouse.
Okay.
They grew, and their promoter was Ho Ho Lun,
Yes,
who
he wrestled.
eventually ended up
Yeah.
in WWE as Ho Lun Ho. So from little acorns, big trees grow. I watched CTW start 25, 30 people. The last show, we couldn't fit any more people in that room. The last show we did in the market had 250 people.
Oh,
For a sport that has no following here in Portugal, I think that's massive.
yes.
And if we can help it to grow more and bring it to more people, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the Hong Kong connection that you were speaking about, I remember about Ololan
Yeah.
because I saw him in
Yeah.
the tournament. And I think from the same company, if I'm not mistaken, also came
Jason
Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he
Yeah,
also
same guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, because he also wrestled and now he's in he's in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Yes, he's in
Right.
Dragon
Gate.
Gate.
Dragon Gate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Good wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going up. He's evolving there. And
Yes.
it's very interesting to the example that you just said because I watch a lot of wrestling,
Of
so
course.
for me it was interesting the viewpoint that you have, and I think seeing Portuguese stars now, I think, and now I'm going to speak about CTW, but also not only CTW. I think now, at least in my view, and at least in the wrestling media community and
Yes.
social network, you start to see a lot of names popping up. Like the last 2 years, like Super Kids, Claudia, because of course Claudia had the tryout
Yeah.
in Germany, if I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
mistaken.
Right, correct.
Of course, Leo Rossi
Yeah.
too, and then you have Shanna that now is in AEW.
Absolutely.
You have Killer Kelly. That's a different topic right now, but
Interesting topic.
interesting topic.
Yeah.
But she's doing big things.
Yeah.
Nonetheless,
Yeah.
she's doing big things
And talented.
and very talented. And you have other guys. So it's for me as a fan. This is very good, but also very surprising because for you guys that have been on the ground, this might not come as a surprise. But for me, that started to hear CTW name 2 years ago, and suddenly we have wrestlers in WWE and AEW, and people are going here and winning titles there. I'm just like, where all these people came from
Absolutely.
in such
That feels
such a short amount
Yeah,
of time,
absolutely.
Feels really good.
and
Yeah.
it just for me it's very interesting and it's a nice surprise.
Yeah.
and
And it's such a pleasure to see it growing the way it is at the moment.
and trying now, and I think now the challenge is trying to bring them to more mainstream.
Yeah.
Red Eagle, because Red Eagle is such a distinctive character, and
Absolutely.
trying to, and I think that now is the challenge, and I think that's a common goal that we have.
Yes.
You know what some people don't realise sometimes? Because Red Eagle is the promoter. He promotes the shows. But the only reason he promotes the shows is because he wanted to be a wrestler and he lives in a country where there's no wrestling. So he is part of this rebirth and this, that and the other. And people forget. Because I was the first promoter in England to give him a match. Because I know David very well. And David brings Red to me and he's like, do you want to put him on a show? I'm like, oh, not really, I've got a full show. And he's like, please give him a chance. So I gave him a chance. And what people need to realise about Red Eagle is he's one of the most talented wrestlers, not in Europe, not in Portugal, but the world. People almost forget that because he's the promoter of CCW, so he has to put the posters up and he has to promote and he has to bring me here to do this and this and this. But on wrestling merits alone, he's one of the best wrestlers I have ever been in the ring with. I've been wrestling for 20 years. I've wrestled Japanese people. I've wrestled American people. Like when I say American people, I mean like the Honky Tonk Man and Jim Duggan and $1 Million Man and all these people. I've been in the ring
legends.
with these people.
Yeah.
I've been in the ring with European legends. I've been in the ring with Japanese legends like Dick Togo and Ultimo Dragon and Mexican legends like Juventud Guerrera. I could go on and on with the people that I've wrestled, but sometimes Red Eagle gets a little bit overlooked because he's the spokesperson of CCW, which without him, this wrestling scene in Portugal wouldn't be anything. But if you'd strip the promotion away and you strip the fact that he's a promoter away, he's one of the best people I've been in the ring with in 20 years. That's pretty important
That's right.
as far as
I
I'm
think
concerned.
This passion he's had since he was a kid, and his dad, bless him, helping him to actually build a ring and follow his dream, has really helped him to have this urge to be charismatic and to be someone who really wants Portuguese wrestling to grow and be a family name, if you like, and to take that name around the world. So, yeah, the more we can do to help that, and these partnerships that we have with federations around the world now, and hopefully more to come, will help us to do all that and to get us more into the mainstream.
I have one thing to say about what you guys were just saying. One thing that yes, Red Eagle is a man of many hats, and one thing that I connected with him once I knew him is how selfless he is.
Yes.
You know, that resonated a lot with myself, because seeing that he likes it so much, he has such a passion that he doesn't, he lets go of his ego.
Yes.
You know?
He hasn't got one.
No,
He doesn't have one.
There isn't one.
Yeah.
There isn't one, and he does it for the sport. He does it for the love.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a thing that I connect a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You know, it's the collective. It's not the high.
Yes.
You know, it's not me. It's what I can do for everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah.
And create more opportunities for the others around me.
Yeah.
So, I have to give him props for that.
More
because-
people need to know that.
Yeah. And I was watching the match, and one of the matches in our hotel that I was a little bit over-analyzing was the Red Eagle Super Kid match.
Yeah.
Because that was, for me as a fan, it was that match that I had to watch with a critical eyes, you know, because it was, I like it a lot, you know, and seeing him doing all the technical stuff live is just wonderful.
Something else.
And it's very different, very difficult to do. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know, there's things on his arsenal, because I can see the clear influence of Ultimo Dragon in him and others, but Ultimo Dragon is the one that
I understand.
and it's just wonderful to watch it live, and he's a great in-ring talent. So, but I want to ask you one question, Mad Dog.
Okay.
What was your major influence as a wrestler?
Okay, I was touching earlier on those cruiserweights.
Yes.
There's two influences, and they're very contrasting. Okay. So I was 15 years old, and I'm watching Royal Rumble 2000. So do you remember Triple H versus Cactus Jack? The
Yes.
Health Board?
Yeah.
It's the same show where you had the Dudley Boys against the Hardys in TLC, and it's the same Rumble where the Big Show and The Rock both won. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. That they fell at the same time. Yeah.
Obviously in England, that event was on from 1 a.m. till 4 a.m. in the morning, okay? And I asked my mother if I could watch it. She says, okay, you can watch it, but you got to go to school in the morning. And it was on till 4 a.m. in the morning. And there's this one moment, and you go back and watch this. Cactus Jack, he takes the pedigree, boom, and he 1, 2, and he kicks out.
Oh, yeah.
And as he kicked out, I kind of rolled backwards and hit my head on the floor, and it really hurt, you know, because I was so shocked.
Yeah.
And I sat back up, and I looked to my brother, and I says, I'm going to be a professional wrestler.
Ooh.
And he says, what? I looked, and then Cactus Jack took a second pedigree, 1, 2, 3, and he lost, and I felt sick. So within 10 seconds, I felt euphoric because he kicked out the move, and I was like on top of the world.
Yeah.
Then I hit my head by accident, nothing to do with the match, and I was in pain. Then I looked back up, and I was that upset, I felt sick. And I sat there at 4:30 in the morning in my bed, upright, thinking, I want that control over other people. I want to be able to make people feel euphoric and sick and happy and sad myself. I wanted that control, you know. To me, it was like superheroes, you know. It was up and down, and that was that. And then I watched the cruiserweights because I went to school and I said I want to be a professional wrestler, and they said, sorry, you're too small, don't do that. Then I saw those cruiserweights that I elaborated earlier, and I spoke to Rey Mysterio. So it was two influences. It was Cactus Jack, hardcore wrestling, weird style, and those cruiserweights from WCW, and I kind of mixed that together, and it made me. And you can see I'm 5'6", and I still come off the top rope with an axe handle or a drop kick or something, but I also bleed everywhere and get stuck in like Cactus Jack. The two influences could not be more separate from each other, but that's what made me want to be a wrestler.
That's a wonderful story, the Cactus Jack origin.
You know that match. It's very
I know.
iconic.
Yeah. It's very iconic. And I was losing myself on my thoughts because it just these kinds of experiences they are very interesting. But sorry, now I'm trying to get back to the point. But
sorry, I will always talk and go off subject.
No,
That's just me.
But you know, the enthusiasm and the passion is something that I can connect with.
Yeah.
And that influence and though you know, pro wrestling has that beauty of you can pick something here, pick something there, and then gel it and make it your own character.
Yeah.
So that is absolutely amazing. I know the point that I wanted to make.
Oh, okay.
Now I got it. The British wrestling scene. I think the British wrestling scene did something because you were speaking about size.
Yeah.
And size, it's a very, I don't want to say taboo subject.
20 years ago, size mattered. Big time.
Yes, exactly. And I think British wrestling helped a lot.
Agreed.
To turn down that wall.
Yeah.
You know, because nowadays you have main inventors that are, you know, what, 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah.
And like 20 years ago, no.
Yeah.
You have to be a tall, jacked up dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
No, it's true.
To be able to wrestle in WWE, main events, whatever. And now there's no boundaries. And I think a lot comes from British wrestling.
Yeah.
Because you guys, sorry to use the expression you guys, but
No.
the scene there, the style that you have in UK is something that now is very mainstream.
Talent first.
Yes.
Funnily
Talent
enough,
first.
we're talking about this very thing on Saturday night. We were talking about the size issue Saturday night, and it's not anywhere near as important as it was.
No. And today you have a little bit for everybody, right?
Absolutely.
And now,
Going back to that circus that I said.
yeah. And you can sustain your disbelief. You were conditioned basically. You can only have big guys winning matches, and now things adapted and adjusted that you can suspend your disbelief that the person that is 5'8" can wrestle a guy that is 6'10", for example.
As long as the talent's there, you'll believe it.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. And I award that a lot to the UK scene and the UK style.
Yeah.
Because if you watch like the main brands, the NXTs of the world, they use that style. It's usually under 6 feet inch wrestlers. Sorry, I confused between
that's fine.
meters
No, that's right.
and
No,
inches.
you're right. It's right.
And it's very interesting to see how it changed in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, and I think one last thing on the UK scene. The UK scene has been very fundamental in Europe the last, let's say, 7 years.
Yeah.
Because it grew a lot. I think it grew a lot. Now it's in the middle stage. I think now the peak is a little bit past, I think. But maybe I'm incorrect. But I think with the WWE running their own offshoot,
Yeah.
it kind of...
One thing I will say, wrestling, it's not peaks, it's lineal.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
success will come and success will it's circular. So it's not up and down and oh God, we're so down.
Yeah.
It's a cylindrical, it's lineal. So that peak will always come back. Eventually, if you're patient enough, it will always come back.
It's like a fashion.
Yeah,
Comes
yeah.
back round again, roundabout, you know?
No, I think it will come back to the same strength, because...
It always does.
Yeah.
Because 2 years ago, everything was in UK,
Yeah.
right? And still is, but not with the same relevance because
but,
of...
But that will, you know?
No,
it's-
I know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I watched
yeah.
the scene, and I'm seeing the scene regenerating.
Yeah.
Which is the interesting factor of it.
And it always will, because those kids with passion at the bottom will always rise to the top. The cream always rises, so you will always get that success again, because it will always come back,
I have one question for you, Mad Max.
Okay.
Mad Max, sorry.
I get that a lot, don't worry. I don't even correct people anymore.
I did notice that a bit earlier from one of your viewers.
It's Mad Max.
Huh? No. For me,
Yeah.
I had this off topic. This was a joke on Saturday, and then my mind now my subconscious just.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mad Dog.
No, I get it a lot. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Sorry. It's just I love the film, and
Yeah, and me.
so my mind went there. But
Yeah.
Mad Dog, now I got your name right. Sorry. I asked this to Red Eagle, and I will ask you: how is it Japan?
Japan. Well, this you've got to go back.
Sorry to cut you off because
go on.
one thing that I was impressed when you entered the ring
Yeah.
was your jacket.
Yeah, Ribera. It means a lot to me.
Big story
Okay,
there,
I'll
isn't
put
there?
some context there. In the when you go back, when I say I've been wrestling 20 years, so I've been watching wrestling throughout the 90s, and then like late 99, 2000, I'm like, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. The internet, which you remember, like dial-up internet, you know, like you used to have dial-up, and then if your mum picked the phone up, you get chucked off the internet.
I remember
It's
that.
not like you could watch matches on the internet, you know. If you brought a picture up, it was like,
Yeah, it
and
was.
you got the picture. So back then in 99, 2000, if you wanted to watch foreign wrestling, there was something called tape trading.
Yes.
You know this?
I know, I know.
So I would get like a VHS tape from like Poundland, and I would put it in the post with £5 note, like a €5, and send it off, and then it would come back. And I would have no choice on what was on that tape. So sometimes it would be British wrestling. Sometimes it would be Vader and Cactus Jack, and I'm like, which I love, but I've already seen it, so I'm like, I've already got that, you know. Then sometimes it would Lucha Libre, so which I like. So I have a different taste of Lucha Libre because I like El Dandy, and I like that kind of that old school kind of lucha style. And then this weird tape came, and it was Kenta Kobashi versus Misawa. And I'd never seen anything quite like it in my life. Never seen anything like it. And the next tape I sent off, I put my £5 note in, and I just put more wrestling from Japan, please. That's all. You weren't supposed to request anything, and I just put that. And what I got back was Dr. Death.
Dr. Steve Williams,
Stan Hansen, Misawa, Kobashi, Tiger Mask, Dynamite Kid, on and on and on and on and on. And it was just through tape trading, and I fell in love with Japanese wrestling. There's two things I noticed. First of all, that it was far more intense than any wrestling I'd seen over the world. And the other thing I noticed was there was a hell of a lot of British guys there. Steve Wright, Dynamite Kid, British Bulldog, Johnny Smith, Johnny Saint, Marty Jones. All these guys were smashing it up in Japan. I was like, wow. And it always meant something to me. Japan was always a mark of excellence, you know. And then through Red Eagle, because I came here and because I built this promotion, and I love Portuguese wrestling, I want to build it up. Because of Red Eagle, because he broke boundaries and he broke glass ceilings down. Because European wrestlers, unless you were like the best of the best or the most famous, which is more important, because in wrestling sometimes it's more who you know than what you know.
No, yeah.
It's like a glass ceiling. Well, Red Eagle broke that glass ceiling, and he took me to Japan, and oh God, it's everything I wanted it to be and more. Yes, they're more technical. Yes, they're more gifted. But I've been wrestling for 20 years now. I know my job inside and out. So luckily I could survive and I could keep up with them. But Japanese wrestling, it goes back to that 15-year-old tape trader, you know, who was me. So it just meant that little bit more to me. And David will back this up, because I was that little bit more nervous and that little bit more happy than I am anywhere else. Yeah. But to walk around with my Ribera jacket, that's my Hall of Fame and my championship and my stamp of approval and my thumbs up all in one go.
But they are such a passionate audience in Japan. Funny little story. We did an afternoon show in a sports centre, not in a particularly busy city centre location. The show started at 2, it finished at 3:30. At 1:45, people were dashing in wearing suits. The second the show was over, they were dashing off again back to work. They actually came to watch a wrestling show in their lunch break. How crazy is that?
There
was also there was another show that blew my mind. We had to get on a coach for 8 hours and travel through the night to wrestle in Nagoya. And there was a show. We were the show at 2:00. And at 4:00, the show finished. At 5, they were rushing us out. There was a show at 5:30. Another promotion, complete different promotion. And then there was another show at 8:00, and all 3 shows were sold out. Yeah. That would not happen in Lisbon. No. That would not happen in London. That was very interesting. 3 shows, 3 promotions, 3 sellouts in the same building. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
It's just, for me, as I grow older and I still watch pro wrestling, I besides the fact that I love Japanese culture, I always liked since I was a kid. So, but now the Japanese wrestling is starting to grow on me, because I still like the lucha libre, but at the same time the realism that they give in their pro wrestling, the shoot style, strong style. It just, for me, it's more logical. It's more sports oriented. Yeah. So for me, it makes more sense in some sense, and it gets me engaged because there's more physicality to it, because you can see more heavy blows and you can feel it. You are watching at home and whoa,
Yeah.
you know, and it just, for me, it's I want to go there and see a show there.
It's a magical
Yeah.
place.
It
Yeah.
is.
And also Ribera, going back to that, like the whole restaurant, even just being there, you can feel the culture in your veins, you know, like not only the big one everybody goes to, but David is like if you take David to a foreign country he's never been in his life, he'll still find a map and understand where everybody goes, you know. So like all the wrestlers now, they go to the second location, which is run by the son, which is amazing. I will never disrespect this, so good. But I wanted to go to the original one because that's the original one that Bruiser Brody found by accident. The first wrestler to ever go in there, and then he took Stan Hansen, and then he took Andre the Giant, and I was like, well, this isn't the original one. And David, on a day off that we had, a rare day off, I was like, David, please help me find the original one, and God bless him, Dave found me that, you know. And that was for me, going back to what I said at the very start of this interview, I'm a wrestling historian, and to go to the original one was something very special.
And see the photographs inside.
Yeah,
It was
but we
unbelievable.
walked the same street that Brucey Brody walked accidentally, and thought, oh, that's a steak. I'm feeling homesick. I'm going to go and have a steak. It was all an accident.
As we walked up the road to the restaurant, you were telling me about who had actually walked up this road,
you know, because I know
in our footsteps. Yeah.
And I was like, thank you, David, because David helped me find it. But I was explaining, Bruiser Brody found it by accident, and then he took Stan Hansen, and then they took Andre, and then and then obviously the Road Warriors went, and the jacket started coming out, and this and that and the other. But to go to the original one, which seats no more than 10 people, you know, and it's smaller than this studio now, that was real history for me, and that meant something to me. But again, I'm that historian when it comes to wrestling, you know.
Yeah, I'm not a historian like yourself, but when I saw the jacket, I just like,
Yeah,
whoa.
yeah, it means something to me.
Yeah, and to somebody that is into pro wrestling, it just means something because
It's pride.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do some little notes in Portuguese.
Yeah.
Just to do a recap of our conversation because of course we have been speaking for over an hour in English. We are
Does
almost.
that mean we get extra fees?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to do a small recap just to put up to date to those who cannot follow the conversation in English. Então, nós estamos quase a chegar ao fim da nossa conversa. Tem sido uma conversa muito interessante. Infelizmente, como a conversa está a ser muito interessante, eu não posso fazer muitas pausas, porque se estivesse a fazer muitas pausas ia quebrar um pouco o ritmo. Temos falado um pouco de tudo. Falámos de como... Já falei disto há pouco, mas de como nós não damos muito valor, nem valorizamos muito o que é feito cá, o que é feito por portugueses, e a visão que pessoas de fora têm sobre como nós não valorizamos a nossa cultura. Isso é uma coisa muito interessante. Falámos muito sobre a evolução que a CTW tem tido, de não ouvir, a começar a ouvir, de serem 40 pessoas até conseguirem esgotar casas de 250 pessoas, o que, para uma coisa que não é de massas em Portugal, como o wrestling, é uma coisa incrível, como o David dizia bem. E pronto, temos falado um pouco sobre a paixão do Japão. Temos andado um pouco por todo lado, falámos um pouco de linguística também, que foi uma coisa sobre sotaques de inglês, sotaques de português. Pronto, tem sido uma conversa bastante rica. Só para deixar aqui algumas curiosidades, agora só para fazer uma pequena pausa e depois vamos rematar a conversa, mas só para dizer que no domingo foi o Dia Mundial da Proteção Civil. Hoje é o Dia Internacional da Vida Selvagem. No sábado e depois no domingo, no sábado é o Dia do Luto Nacional pelas Vítimas de Violência Doméstica e no domingo é o Dia Internacional da Mulher. Vai haver a greve convocada, a greve internacional feminista convocada pela rede 8 de Março. Quem puder ir e quiser ir, por favor, vá. É sempre um evento bastante importante. Por favor, apareçam. E é basicamente isto em relação a dias. Outras curiosidades. E agora vou dizer em inglês porque é engraçado e quero ver se há reação. Usually I say some I call it some I don't know, facts about the day. So funny facts about the day. I spoke about the International Day. So for example, today is the International Day for the Wildlife. But usually I say, for example, In 53, the Brazilian football player called Zico was born. I always give some birthdays. Also, Jessica Biel, the actress, was born. On this day was born in 847 Alexander Graham Bell.
Yeah.
He was
Probably
born.
not alive now, though.
Yeah. He died in 22.
Yeah.
So, but he was basically the inventor of the telephone.
Absolutely.
Something that we cannot live without these days.
Of course.
Oh.
So that for me, that's a major thing.
Yeah.
And 1991, the Los Angeles police officers severely beat Rodney King.
That's today?
Yes,
Wow.
it was in 91. So this gave origin, as you know, to the Los Angeles riots,
Yeah.
basically. So it was today. And 39, Gandhi began to fast in Mumbai to protest against autocratic rule in India. And just a couple of Portuguese notes. Neste dia, em 1803, foi fundado o Colégio Militar pelo Coronel Teixeira Rebelo, e em 1455 nasceu o rei Dom João II, que morreu em 1495. Sorry, I was just giving some Portuguese ones in Portuguese, so it makes some sense. Well, this has been a very, very interesting interview for me. We still have a couple of minutes. We are finishing. So I just wanted, first of all, to say thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you, David.
Pleasure.
Because I met you last year.
Yeah.
And this is the second time that I have the pleasure to speak with you. And also on the partnership. I think we have similar ways of thinking.
We do.
And what's on my behalf and in my name, Andre, I want to say I want to be able to help you guys as much possible. I am a fan not only of the product but the human beings. That for me, that's a very important bit, because
It's
the
more
way
important.
the way you go around to do business, for me, it's very important. And I like the way you guys think and the way you guys operate. So I would like to thank you a lot, and I will do everything that I can to help promote. So thank you so much for being here, Mad Dog. It was such a pleasure to meet you. It was, honestly, I didn't know what to expect.
Nobody ever does.
And that's good. But it was a pleasure to speak with you. I could speak on for ages about the history, because I have a lot to say about pro wrestling, but it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
It was very insightful. You gave very interesting points of view.
Oh, awesome.
So it was a pleasure. Thank you guys so much. Just to say, CTW next show is on 21st of March. Is in Mercado da Ajuda. Please go and watch it. Por favor, vão e vejam. É uma experiência ao vivo tremenda. And now I will give you the floor to do.
So, you know, I said, like, I'm pretending to be normal. You know what I'm saying? Like, the adrenaline's running out. But I need to address my opponent on the 21st, you know, so... Leo Rossi, Papio Grande! Judah Market, 21st of March! My name is Mad Dog Max and Papio Grande! Leo Rossi, if you think for one bleeding second you getting your belt back, you ain't got a chance in the world! 21st of March, Judah Market, Mad Dog Max is coming to destruct, to destroy, to decimate. Judah Market, 6 p.m, 21st of March. Bring yourself to me, because I will destroy you.
Be there.
Até para a semana. Exit the room. Matt, no, exit the room. Sorry.
Rádio Movimento é sensacional.